ready. I have to change some settings as well anyway. So.
Hi, Carol.
Hey guys, sorry I couldn't find the link when I was trying to log in. I'll be ready. I'll be ready. It was in the calendar. It was right there in the calendar thing, but I just need 1 minute. I'll be ready.
Okay. Hi, Steve.
Evening. Hello, everyone.
Thanks for being so on top of your committee work.
We'll get it. It's a long haul. You
It
know,
is,
little by
right? But it
little.
helps to, you know, just ask the questions, and Juliana, whenever you have time, we can talk schedule or via email.
So we're all ready to go as soon as Carol's ready to go.
And I think we can share now, Zach, if you want, while we're waiting, that we've got 3 commissioners who are able to attend tonight. So Jessica, she and her family actually are sick with the plague too. Hopefully they're going to get better soon. And then Patty's busy with work stuff. Yeah, she's the interim executive director now for the league, and so very busy with that. And then Tracy is also busy with work stuff, but she wanted to pass along. She's working hard on a National Register nomination for the Civic Center, which you'll see soon enough. Yeah.
Carol, I don't know if you're back, but it is 5:30, so we're ready whenever you are.
Oh, yeah.
Carol, we're ready whenever you are. So.
All right, thank you, everyone. I don't have a gavel, so virtual. I will now call to order the February 17th, 2022 meeting of the Salem Historic Landmarks Commission. Will the recorder please take roll call?
Commissioner Cunningham?
Here.
Commissioner Fuller?
Here.
Commissioner Holton?
Here.
Commissioner Inman?
Here.
Commissioner Pons?
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman?
Here.
Commissioner Kurteman is absent, Commissioner Mulvihill is absent, and Commissioner Schwartz is also absent. We have established quorum.
Thank you. The commission will now hear testimony from the public concerning any items not on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak at this time?
We did not have any members of the public sign up for testimony.
Thank you. Seeing none, we will now move to consider approval of the minutes from January 20th. Does anyone want to have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move approval of the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Inman moves and Commissioner Zimmerman seconds. Are there any corrections before we vote? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Now, moving to our public hearings, we only have one this evening. All right. I will now open the public hearing for historic review case HIS 22-01. Will the recorder please read the hearing procedures and statement into the record?
This is a public hearing to consider case number HIS 22-01 for property located at 201 through 211 Commercial Street Northeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in Salem Revised Code, Chapter 230.040, Standards for Historic Contributing Buildings in Commercial Historic Districts, Sections B, Windows, and Section J, Mechanical Equipment. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Historic Landmarks Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the hearings officer on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Historic Landmarks Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
Thank you, Zach. And I'd like to ask, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that any commissioners would like to declare at this time? Seeing none, see a few shaking heads on my screen. May we now have the staff presentation?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Fitzgerald, Historic Preservation Officer for the City of Salem. I'd like to enter the staff report, its attachments, and all testimony into the public record. So this is a historic contributing building to our downtown National Register district. It's here on the corner of Commercial and Court. And a little bit about the history. So this is a picture from the 1889 Capitol Journal, and this is that same corner. And as you can see, the structure has been replaced since that time. If you've not seen the Sanborn Fire Insurance map, that's on the lower right hand of your screen that shows that address. The address is there. And there used to be a grocery store there that was it supplied Salem with a lot of supplies for many, many years. So we did some additional research, and by we, I mean Kirsten. She did some additional research, and as is the case for actually quite a few of the addresses in our downtown historic district, the summary of the history was not entirely accurate in the National Register nomination. So we're still in the process of working with the State Historic Preservation Office to update the details. But I did want to clear up that the current building was actually constructed in 1927. There's an ad from the newspaper, the Daily Capital Journal, inviting everyone to the grand opening of the new building. And there's a picture of it from the newspaper there in the lower right of your screen. So it was initially known actually as the Anderson Greenbaum Building. And those were the property owners at the time. And the Western Auto Supply Company, they were the first tenants in this new building in the fall of 1927. So to give you a brief overview of the proposal before you tonight. So the applicant is requesting approval to place windows on the second story of the Anderson building. No windows, or the storefront was actually something that the Landmarks Commission reviewed back when the current owners took possession of the property in 2017. The applicant's also proposing to install a total of, I believe it's 6 new dome security cameras and 4 replacement security lights on the exterior of the first floor of the Anderson building. 3 cameras will be installed on the south elevation fronting State Street, and they'll be mounted to the underside of the canopy or soffit there, and installed also towards the top of the columns between those storefront windows. 1 camera will be installed on the east elevation fronting Commercial Street, and I'll show a detail of that. It's also on the drawing there at the top left of your screen there. The proposal is to locate both the light and the camera on the top of the central brick column there in the center, and then another one there on the northern end of that facade. Here's from the proposal 2 additional facade renderings. So 2 cameras will be installed on the west facade fronting the alley, and there's going to be no cameras or lights proposed for installation on the northern facade. So a bit more detail about the windows. So the applicant is requesting approval to replace 9 wood framed windows, the ones that were installed in 1927 with the new construction of the building. These currently are in really poor condition. You can see some detailed photos of that there. And they have currently these exterior aluminum storm windows, which I think he detailed in his application that one of them actually blew off, and luckily it didn't hurt anyone. And the applicant is proposing to replace these with a new fiberglass window, but he's proposing to utilize wooden frames and have the exterior trimmed with new cedar to match the existing wood trim. And they will be replicating the existing design and configuration, which, as he noted in his application, are in what we call the Chicago style, with that central fixed window and then 2 double hung windows flanking either side. Here's some detailed photos of the lighting proposed, as well as those cameras. So that up and down LED security light, the Stereo Square SQ SO2, that's the one that's proposed there on the primary facade fronting Commercial Street. And then the other types of lighting are going to be on those other facades around the building. And then the security camera is a typical domed camera that you can see proposed throughout the building. So now I'm going to go through the applicable criteria. First, we're going to go through the windows. So the criteria are standards, and they can be found in SRC 230040B. So again, the first standards is relating to materials, and it's not feasible to retain the original material in the existing wooden windows because they have existing broken panes, dry rotted sashes, frames, and sills, and the aluminum storm windows, which aren't original, are also failing. These windows are not secure, and even though repairs were attempted by the previous owner, they weren't ultimately successful. So it's not feasible to repair them. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that this particular standard has been met for this proposal. Moving on to B, the applicant is proposing to replace existing wood frame sills and trim with wood, matching the existing to the greatest degree feasible. As I mentioned before, the aluminum storm windows will not be replaced. Instead, the applicant is proposing to replace these windows with fiberglass and will be utilizing insulated Cardinal low E 366 glass, which is very similar to the glass within the storefront that was approved for the first floor of this building. The proposed new windows will be installed within existing openings to match the current design and configuration. So staff recommends the HLC find that SRC 230040B1B has been met for the proposal. Regarding criteria C, there is no glass block, tinted, mirrored, opaque, or colored glass proposed as by the applicant in this proposal. And then regarding design, which is 230040B2. So as I mentioned before, for A, the applicant is proposing to match the existing design and configuration of the original 1927 windows meeting this particular criteria. And the applicant is not proposing to enlarge or change the original window openings. So that that criteria has been met. And then the applicant is not proposing any new window openings as part of this proposal. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that SRC 230040 B2 A through C have been met. And now these next batch, the applicant is not proposing to reopen any covered up original openings. He's not substituting a different window type on the second floor. And the existing windows do not currently incorporate divided lights. Therefore, SRC 230040B2 D, F, and G are not applicable to the evaluation of this proposal. And last, the applicant is not proposing to install storefront windows on the upper level of the building. Therefore, staff recommends that the HLC find that this standard has been met for the proposal. So now moving on to discussion of the proposed security cameras and replacement lights. And these standards can be found in SRC 230040J. The proposed security cameras and replacement lights are of metal and glass, which are typical materials found throughout the Anderson building as well as the district generally. So staff recommends the HLC find that this criteria relating to materials has been met for this proposal. And then regarding design, 2A and B, the proposed new security cameras and the replacement security lighting fixtures are located in inconspicuous locations on the exterior of the Anderson building. And the most visible fixtures are on the facade fronting Commercial Street. However, the proposed security light fixtures here are compatible in design, where the light shines both up and straight down on the building facade, and the light fixture appears to be an integral part of the overall building design. The fixtures will be installed into the brick columns. And so staff does have one recommended condition here in order to ensure that any original materials on the exterior of the building are not adversely affected by the actual installation. And so staff is recommending a condition that the proposed security cameras and lighting fixtures should be attached into the mortar joints and not into the brick masonry in order to better meet that standard. And last, taken kind of as a batch here, standards SRC 230040J 2, C, D, E, G, and H are not applicable to the evaluation of this proposal because the applicant is not proposing any rooftop mechanicals, solar panels, skylights, or telecommunications equipment. And regarding standard F, relating to screening and an inconspicuous location, as I mentioned before, the proposed new cameras and replacement lights are small in scale, and they are located in inconspicuous locations and not obscuring any character defining features. So staff recommends the Landmarks Commission find that SRC 230040J2F has been met. So we've received no general public comment regarding this proposal. We have received testimony from the Can Do Neighborhood Association stating that they do not oppose the proposal. And then we also received comments from the Building and Safety Division that the applicant must obtain any required building permits for this project. So based upon the information presented in this application, the plan submitted for review, and the findings as presented in the staff report, staff recommends the Landmarks Commission approve the proposal with the following condition. Condition 1, the proposed new security cameras and lighting fixtures shall be attached into the mortar joints and not into the brick masonry on the columns on the exterior of the Anderson building. So that concludes the staff report. I'm going to stop sharing so you can see each other.
Thank you, Kimberly. Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff? Seeing none. If there's no questions for the staff, and there, of course, we have opportunity to do this too later in the process. We will now call for the applicant's testimony. Will you please state your name and address for the record, or your business address if you're representing the applicant? And please note that your testimony is limited to 15 minutes.
It's Leonard Lauder. I guess the business address is 275 Court Street, Salem, Oregon, with Studio 3 Architecture, as well as with Anderson Building LLC, I think it is. I'm actually not going to make much of a presentation. Kimberly's pretty much handled everything that we wanted to address. Our biggest concern is really that the windows are reaching end of life. And in fact, a couple of different windstorms have done different sets of damage to them this past winter. One was the storm window blowing off, and we also had another sash actually blow out the glass as well. So managed to fix that up in the interim, but it's just a temporary fix. So other than that, if I'm available for questions, if there's any questions.
Perfect. Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions for the applicant? Hearing and seeing none. Thank you. Thank you, Leonard. Now call for testimony from any neighborhood association representatives.
We do not have any.
Believe we don't have. And there were no names on the sign up sheet.
Yep.
And since we're on Zoom, I think I can tell, but are there anyone else who would like to testify that's joined the meeting? All right. With that, commissioners, do you have any additional questions for staff on this hearing? Okay. And would anyone who provided testimony like to request that the record remain open to submit additional evidence that has not yet been submitted? All right. Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. No additional testimony will be accepted at this time without formally reopening the hearing. And now I will call for a motion.
Hi, Carol. I move to approve the recommendation by the city along with the condition of the proposed new security cameras and lighting fixtures being attached to the mortar joints and not into the brick on the building.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Zimmerman makes the motion, seconded by Commissioner Inman. And now some discussion. Andy, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure. It seems like a pretty straightforward proposal, and given the fact that there were some issues with the windows popping out already, it's good that it's getting taken care of, and the fact that the new windows are going to be pretty much matching what was, in the place, since it was constructed in 1927. It, makes sense to me to, just move straight forward with this proposal, and hopefully they don't have any more issues like this with the building.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yeah, I'll agree with Commissioner Zimmerman. It's clearly straightforward, and I think that that's kudos to working together with Kimberly and others from the city. That it's great to see that there's solutions like this where we can make it so that the windows will be upgraded and working well for you, as well as the installation of those lights and other things. We're here to interpret the rules and work with folks on their properties, but we're also always happy to see things that continue to make our neighborhoods, including the downtown business neighborhood, thrive and really have people of Salem out and living and using all of these buildings. So we appreciate your time, appreciate working through the process. With that, I will now call for a vote to the motion. All those in favor? Oh, I'm supposed to restate the motion. I will now call for a vote. All those in favor of approving with the condition to that was listed in the report, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The motion passes. Thank you, Leonard. So that is our second here, but that is our only hearing for tonight. So we do have some other discussion items, but it looks like Leonard jumped off. I was going to say he's welcome to leave. And I need to move my papers around. So we also do not have any action items. Which moves us to discussion items. The first one is, it is Black History Month. Kimberly, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so let me just introduce a couple of things. So I don't know if you guys remember, for those of you that were on the commission last year, we did invite Kimberly Moreland from the Oregon Black Pioneers to speak to us last year. And so we have two things to help commemorate the African American Heritage Month. Yes, African American and Black History Month. So we have a proclamation that the mayor has signed that he has asked that you read Carol on his behalf. And then Zach has worked his magic. Kim was able to give a talk to the South Salem Rotary Club last week, and we recorded it, and she said it would be all right to share a little bit of it. So if we could do the proclamation first, Carol, and then Zach can share a short bit of that video.
Yes, I'm happy to do that. And I will also say that a few years ago, we had a presentation. I know it was a few years ago because it was an in-person HLC meeting, but we had a presentation from the Black Pioneers, and it was really wonderful. And I hope that we can do it again in the future.
Yeah, I think that may have been Gwen Carr. I can't remember. Yeah, we should definitely.
I can't remember the name either.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Excuse me for a second. So I'll now read the mayor's proclamation. Whereas in February 1926, Dr. Carter G. Woodson introduced Negro History Week, and in 1976, Black History Month was formally adopted to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout America. And whereas Black History Month recognizes and pays tribute to the contributions that African Americans have made to American history and their struggles for freedom and equality, and deepens our understanding of our shared history. And whereas for generations, African American individuals, families, and communities have played a significant role in protesting the necessity for Black individuals and families to be viewed and valued as human beings who are respected, dignified, and worthy. And whereas the city of Salem acknowledges the historical and modern day challenges faced by people of African descent, sustained by white supremacy and all of its direct and indirect impacts. And whereas the Salem City Council has denounced racism as a systemic issue, creating disparate outcomes in many areas of life, including family stability, on January 25th, 2021, Council adopted Resolution 2021-2, condemning white supremacy and racism. The resolution 2021-3, affirming that racism is a public health crisis. And whereas we at the City of Salem commend the many achievements, successes, and contributions of African Americans whose roots begin with the foundation of incredible strength, resilience, creativity, and unity. And now, therefore, I, Chuck Bennett, Mayor of City of Salem, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2022 as Black History Month in the City of Salem, Oregon, and encourage all residents to join in learning about and celebrating the contributions of African Americans have made to our country, our state, and to our community. I apologize for the background noise.
That's okay. That's great. Thank you, Carol.
I'll go ahead and share that presentation from Kim just a moment while I get that.
While
pulled up.
while he's getting that ready, just a little bit about what you're going to see. So there is a website that this is pulled from, and we'll send you a link to it. They've been working on a map, and it's a really cool map. So this is just a little bit about that.
There are Oregon Black pioneers who did settle early on, and this is a map of Black pioneers across Oregon from 1788 who settled in Oregon Territory. And we have revised this map, and I'm really excited that we'll be able to share it publicly in a few days, actually. And David and Letitia Carson is one of those that came across the Oregon Trail. So Letitia Carson settled in Salt Creek Valley. They did get a donation land claim, but when it was discovered that she was African American, they took the portion that would have been reserved for a white wife. They said that she couldn't have that that portion, which I think you could have a total of 640, and I think they took away 320. And when her husband died, he's not pictured here, but when he died, they took away his land claim, saying that she wasn't allowed to own land. She sued them and was compensated for her loss, but she ended up moving to Douglas County, and she does get what you call a homestead, which part of the Homestead Act, which is different than the Land Donation Claim Act, because the homestead didn't have a racial exclusion clause. And below is Gwen Carr, who is our former vice president and one of our emeritus board members, was at her gravesite. And the picture above Gwen and Jane Kirkpatrick, who is the author who wrote about Letitia Carson, is Letitia Carson's daughter and her stepson and grandchild. But she's an amazing story that is worth looking into.
Great, thank you, Zach. Yeah, so we'll follow up with an email with a link to the Oregon Black Pioneers website, and it's really cool. They have like this interactive map, so you can learn all about the work that they've been doing and the research. And so if you have an interest in helping them with their ongoing project, they have asked for assistance, and we can send you more information on that too.
Thank you. Moving to our next discussion item, Kmuc Community Radio Salem History Moments.
I think I'm going to turn this over to Zach. With a brief introduction. So we may have shared before that starting in January, we've been working with Kmuc to do a short radio program. So go for it, Zach.
I was afraid you would turn it over to me.
I know.
So as Kim said, it's a weekly program. It's generally about 4 to 6 minutes long. And for the first test episodes, it's been Kim either reading articles she's written or other stories, or the other format we've done is I do an interview format with Kirstensen helping with a lot of these. So currently we're in the middle of a tour of downtown. So Kristen will give us a brief history about the building, whatever building we're talking about. So we've talked about 4 so far, although only one of those episodes has played, or 2 now, one played this week. We're trying to record in advance and then give them over to the radio station so that we don't have to do it every week. We can do them in bursts. But we would like to, in addition to the ones that we're preparing, we'd like to include some commissioners. So whether that be if you have an area of interest that you're passionate in and you just want to talk about, you can either record it as an individual, just like narrative that you're just talking, or we can set aside time for me to do an interview style with you. But we'd like to include commissioners in that. We think a good way to do that is potentially commissioners who have written for the newsletter. We can take whatever information from the newsletter, we can turn that into a radio story and kind of just sprinkle those in with the other content that we're making. So I think that's the general background of what we're doing and what we're asking for. If there's any discussion on that.
I, for one, am very interested in that. I think that's a great use of our resources and connections, and I would be happy to give like 4 to 6 minutes of talking about things that I have already been interested enough to write about. Like, yeah, come on, let's do that. That sounds great. I've got experience on radio too, so it should be it sounds pretty cut and dry, honestly. We're just making little bits, right? Okay, great. Yeah, I'm happy to. Get in contact with me and we'll get it figured out.
Yeah, and just so people know, the segments are 4 to 6 minutes. Usually the recording takes about 15-ish, just because I will cut out a lot of ums and ahs and just general getting ready. Sometimes in the conversations I've had with Kirsten so far, she'll say something, and then when she's done talking, like, I had a question, let me think what it was. And then so there'll be some gaps and stuff, but the actual produced thing is about 4 to 6 minutes, but the recordings each take about 15 minutes. So that's
cool.
What to
yeah, sounds really easy.
Be prepared for. So I've got Brett on the list. Is anyone else interested in participating in it?
Sure, I'll do one too, Zach.
Okay, great. I will reach out to you. We have this month ready to go. So maybe towards the end of, I guess the end of this month is next week, but maybe next week or the week after, I will reach out to you about participating.
Zach, do you want to, maybe we didn't talk about this. Do you want to do themes? Oh, Juliana.
Juliana. I would like to jump in and volunteer to talk about seismic retrofitting.
Sure, yeah.
Fun. Yeah.
Let's do seismic. Let's retrofit our building.
Yeah.
We might also consider interviewing some of the older residents of our historic districts who may not be around too many more years. And it occurs to me that Bonnie and Roger Hull, who did the district nomination for the Court Chmuc residential district, are still alive and might be good subjects for a little segment. And probably some of our other districts too have similar long-term residents.
Those are good ideas.
And Kim had asked about themes, I think, and we don't really have any specific themes. Kristen and I are doing the downtown tour just because it was an easy way to just like decide. It's like, we're just going to move down the street and we don't have to sit there and ponder, what do we want to write or what do we want to talk about? But there are no set themes. As we've been doing episodes, we've decided we're going to pepper in some other things. Like we were talking about a building and Kristen said there's this great this great photo of this building during a parade, and like, oh, well, we should talk about parades later because there were a lot of parades downtown. So I'm sure it'll be great to just pepper in additional subjects that don't have to do with our theme of downtown or anything. And once that's over, we'll move on to a different, probably neighborhood or theme, just to keep things rolling. For however long, we don't have a set amount of time that we are doing the radio show. So
I will say KMUZ has a dedicated audience who loves history. So, and in fact, for those of you that may know Virginia Green, and then Deb Meagers and Christy Van Hukelum, they each had their own radio show that was much longer than 6 minutes. And so they have been doing that for years now. And so I guess where I'm going with this is that if we can figure this out, they would love to have the content. There's a definite audience for that. And one other thing to just mention, I think the city's IT department, we're working with them. Eventually, once we get the website updated, we will have a web page so that, if you have content you're thinking about that would lend itself, like Zach talked about, pictures, like we can figure out a way to supplement our radio with some more content. Anyway, great. I'm glad people are excited.
And once we have it on the website, it'll be easy to link to our Facebook and stuff if Andy wants to include that on our post.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Look forward to seeing how that progresses. It's exciting. Our next discussion item is work plan, assignment updates, and check-in. Do you have any volunteers or people that have anything they want to report out on things they've been working on?
I have a question.
Yeah.
One of the areas that I've been working on is looking at funding options for the Toolbox Grant Program and how that all works. I do have to qualify that a bit, that I am a partner in a company that does nonprofit management, development, and grant writing. So I do have history in that field. Nothing that I'm doing here is a conflict of interest on my part. It's more of just kind of basing it off of the backgrounds that I work with around me all day long. I have some questions on what's currently there, and not to take time this evening, but how do I address those questions? Who do I address it to so that we don't get into this situation that we're conducting a meeting, outside that? What's the best way to do that?
You can always start with staff. And I think is Tom here?
Yeah.
Yay, Tom. Do you want to weigh in?
Kimberly's exactly right. If you have questions that, about how to do something or about how to bring an issue before the commission, then the best way to do that is submit the request or the question to Kimberly or to staff, and they'll be able to, hopefully they'll be able to answer your question, or they'll be able to disseminate it in a way that we don't run afoul of the public meetings rules.
And I know, when we get into these situations where more than one person is on this committee, it becomes a little difficult to make sure that we're communicating, that everybody's in the know without conducting a meeting. So again, it's just one of those things that we have to deal with. But again, the protocol of all of this is what I'm looking for right now.
Right. The primary communication should be with staff, and then it can be disseminated out to the rest of the commission if needed.
To Super. That makes it quite easy. And again, the questions I have, the staff is knowledgeable about it, so they can probably answer it quite quickly.
The only other thing I would add, since we're on this issue of emails and whatnot, it's a good idea, if you haven't already done so, to create a dedicated email address for this commission, so that you don't have the problem of material in your personal email becoming a public record. So make sure, if you haven't already done so, add an email account that is dedicated solely to commission business.
That's one thing that I've done. I'm in an HOA here, and I was the secretary, and one thing that you have to remember is those become records, and if you do get into anything, and I think your attorney will tell you, if it's on your personal computer, there's certain information that you don't want out there. So that's probably a good idea for everybody, is to get a Gmail account or something like that is just dedicated to our business here. So good point.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We're also going to have a training here in the next month or two, where we're going to go over a lot of these issues, also public meetings issues, public records, and then also the governmental ethics issues that come up from time to time.
Yeah, that's a good reminder too, that we all need to file with you should have received emails, but from the OGEC, I think, Oregon Government Ethics Commission. And I can speak from experience, you can do it as late as the very last day.
Don't do that.
But don't. And it's not terribly
It's straightforward.
It's not terribly hard, and especially if you do it the first time, that's probably takes the longest, and the next time it carries everything forward. So doesn't take long, important to do. From work plan assignments, are there other things that anybody has updates on? Are there updates from Steve? Are there any updates or anything that's been happening with the code enforcement topic? You're on mute as well.
Okay, starting over. Subcommittee work was completed, and just in the last few days, I reached out to Kimberly and Juliana to try and revive some of that and keep the ball rolling on some of that development. We have identified some of the, areas that are fruitful and getting communication to the groups. And so it's just follow up on creating that flyer and how we distribute that.
Yeah, we appreciate Steve staying on top of it. Yes. We have a lot to do, and we have a lot to do, and we will move forward. I have no doubt.
And then the other, I guess I'd ask Zach or Kimberly, because I don't know who to ask, but as far as the public outreach and community education with Historic Preservation Month in May, but along with that, we have our awards and our photo contest. Is there anything to report on those topics this meeting?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll ask Zach to really jump in on this, but Patty and Jessica, both of whom aren't here tonight, they're the sort of subcommittee folks and taking the lead on those things. And so Zach was going to reach out and try to set something up next week. Do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. I think we're hoping to meet with them next week. I know that they're both fairly busy, but I'm trying to figure out what we can do with their schedule. So, and then I think I can't remember if I sent it. I think I did to you all, but I was also in the meeting where we met with the other CLGs and just discussed what they were doing for their historic preservation month. So there was just some ideas that were shared. None of them are coming to the top of my head right now, but if I didn't send that to you, I will send that to you. I think I did, but I'm not sure.
Didn't Patty have an idea one year that was like baking cake, like a cake contest?
I shared that during the meeting and everyone laughed.
I love
And
that.
it's not, I think it actually, well, Patty should speak for herself, but I think it wasn't just her idea. I think it was actually something that had
They
happened
actually
in
did.
a city
Yeah.
she used to live in.
Yeah, yeah. I love that.
I prefer the no bake sales.
Oh, no bake sales. I like it. I know, Juliana, you have great, you should be in charge of the fun ideas. I like to say we have time, but I mean, it's almost the end of February. See how quickly that happens? Oh my goodness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to more updates on that. And are there any other items that anyone wants to speak to this time for work plan?
I just wanted to bring up something that I talked to you a little bit about. We had gotten an interested party who wanted to do some interior updates to their home to help preserve it. So they currently use an old electrical system, and those are prone to fires and whatnot. So our current toolbox grant does not allow for interior fixes and things like that, with the exception of seismic retrofitting. And from my understanding, Kim can correct me if I'm wrong, the reason that is because it's difficult to do education on things that the public can't see from public spaces. So the way that we believe we can rectify that is either the homeowner or a commissioner could write a piece for our newsletter whenever we have some sort of interior toolbox grant. And we just wanted to bring that to the commission, see if that's something that they're interested in pursuing, if they want to leave the grant the same. We haven't secured any additional funding. It would just be the existing funding, but more types of grants could be dispersed.
Right. It's a job for David. Yeah, to just build on what Zach said. So because we are utilizing public funding, and we are a certified local government, there's certain criteria related to public benefit that we have to meet with dispersing this grant money. And the policies established by the National Park Service related to CLGs has been that if we're supporting maintenance on the exterior or anything that's going to restore like character defining features on a structure, that's a public benefit because it's maintaining the resource for the community. Once we start moving to the interior, we still have to figure out a way to provide that public benefit. So like Zach mentioned, doing an article, we can get creative, but we still have to do something. Yeah.
Could, I think this is an interesting idea, and I'm glad everyone can sort of hear it tonight and think about it. Could this be something, is there anything that's written describing the rules around the toolbox grant that would be something for us to kind of review, and if we're gonna make decisions on this, sort of react to in a future meeting?
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Short answer, yes.
Yes.
And hopefully, especially because it would be an action item, not a year. Maybe if we have a month coming up where we don't have too many public hearings, it might be a good action item for us to work
Yeah,
on.
and I don't know what Zach's thinking, but I was thinking certainly not maybe for this year's grant cycle. Maybe we could think about it for summer if we have a what do you think, Zach? Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we can bring it back.
Sounds good. Yeah, I just think if we're going to be changing the nature of it, we should have a
Yes,
just,
talk about it.
discussion and yeah,
Yeah,
a record of our decisions.
yeah.
Have a noticed public hearing.
What?
But it's interesting idea, and I like that I like the idea that it's not just, oh well, we can justify this, but how we'll do it is having that education outreach piece still working. So
Yeah,
look forward to it. Anything else under work plan related?
I like Andy's work always. He's doing a good job. Do you have enough content, Andy?
It seems like there's just kind of a lot of it just kind of popping up on different sources. I mean, things that you've written, Kimberly, for the Salem Reporter, as well as just different things I've just kind of been coming across too. So that's been real helpful that I can just quickly put that stuff out there to kind of populate our Facebook
great.
and Twitter and that kind of stuff. So that's been pretty nice.
I don't know, Brett, did you sign up to provide more content to Andy? Here, I'm putting you on the spot. You're like, I don't know, did I?
He wasn't at the
I
meeting.
just had that
think
in
we
my head. You were voluntold and you weren't here.
And you're muted. And you're muted.
Sorry, Brett. He's like, forget it. And we didn't tell you.
Yeah. Was not here last time, but I'm
Yeah,
happy
we
to
assigned all
start
sorts of
slinging
things.
content.
Yes.
I guess it's true. It's the perfect time to like just load it onto my plate. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy to provide in the future. I'm certainly thinking about like more newsletter stuff, and I can always take newsletter content and pare it down into social media content. Is another part of that too. So things can be recycled.
Well, on this note, let's transition to discussion item D, newsletter assignments.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so,
All right. One.
Yeah, so we did discuss this at the last meeting, and we got a few people signed up, but we are looking to get at least one more. And I think I asked Brett before the meeting began, and he said that he would be willing to do that. So we don't need any more than that, but if anyone else who didn't previously signed up is interested, I think currently I'm writing a piece that's just really an advertisement for our photo contest. Carol's going to write a letter, and then Andy had signed up but didn't have a specific topic. And then Brett was discussing potentially something about a poisoning during World War II.
Yeah. There was it was like a nationwide, or at the very least statewide, famous incident that happened very briefly when there was a crate of government issued eggs that accidentally got spilt full of rat poison at the state hospital in like 1943 in the spring. And it was this nightmare incident, but it created a huge kind of like panic over what was happening. And there were spies in Salem, Oregon, and they were poisoning the food supply that was meant to go overseas to the Pacific for the troops and stuff like that. And so, but it turned out that the state hospital was underfunded, understaffed, and was using patients to perform staff duties. And so it was just a series of tragic accidents that turned up. I found all the records for it recently at the archives. So I've got a whole bunch of information on that. And it's springtime, there's eggs and stuff. So that's my submission.
Excellent. Andy, do you have any direction on?
I think I was just going based off of kind of what Zach was talking about previously about kind of events or things that have happened in Salem. So I'll have something along that line. I might go with the when the Liberty Bell came to Salem, like in 1913. It was at the old train station downtown along Front Street, and it of course had a traffic jam of folks from miles around that went to see the real McCoy as it was headed to San Francisco for an exhibition. So I'll probably write about that one because that one's kind of a fun one and unique situation, because you never expect that to travel, let alone come through Salem, Oregon, of all places. So I'll probably put a little something together about that one. And it's funny, Brett, that you mentioned about that poisoning, because see, I work over at the Department of Agriculture, and for our pesticide newsletter, one of the leadership people at the agency is going to be writing something about that for our pesticide newsletter, and the importance of reading labels, when it comes to pesticides and accurate, pesticide usage and stuff. But I don't know, I guess people just had that case at the state hospital in their minds lately or something.
Yeah, I mean, it was researched by somebody. That's how I ran across the incident a while back. I found out about it maybe 6 months ago or so. So I'm wondering if maybe there's like just the zeitgeist of it is going around right now, because it's a fascinating kind of turn, and like fits into the nightmare factory that state hospital was between the 20s and the 60s. So yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy story, when you think about all of the things going on at that time period. And then, having that incident at the hospital that sickened so many people and, ended up killing a fair amount of people as well. It's kind of hard to believe, but at the same time, with everything that was going on and, the 1940s and right around World War II era, it's just, it's a fascinating story, like you say. So I'm sure folks will be really interested in seeing that.
Yeah, and I think that it also ties in well, because I mean, height of World War II was a period of mass paranoia too, right? Like you're always looking for espionage, you're looking for like the enemy within, and like we exist presently in a period of incredible paranoia and great distrust, and it's the social pressures that we're experiencing presently are in many ways parallel to situations like that when we're under incredible national pressure. The things that can spiral out of control that were just accidents to begin with. So yeah, I think it can be a cool article, especially something that was so local to Salem.
Absolutely.
Good.
And then,
Zach?
just so you know, Patty is also going to do another edition of her travels. So she's got a little road trip article almost ready. She said it would be ready tomorrow. So, but the deadline is not until the week of March 14th. So
thank you. And just like your ethics commission filing, you can wait till the last second, but try not to.
Yeah. And if you are submitting any photos with your article, which is very welcome, I include them as a separate attachment.
Well, excellent. Thank you everyone for contributing. And the biggest thanks to Zach for keeping everybody moving forward. And now is the Historic Preservation Officer report, which I will now call for.
Hey, I just have a few things to share. So I'll bring more information when I have it, but the city is going to be celebrating the birthday of the Civic Center. And that's part of what Tracy's helping with. So part of that is going to be listing the Civic Center on the National Register, which is really exciting. And on August 18th, there's going to be an actual birthday party. But what I may be bringing back is a request for help to kind of celebrate the history. So there's going to be more to come on that. And if you are interested, I'm going to provide the link to Zach. The Northwest Anthropological Association, that's a mouthful. They're having a conference March 9th through the 12th. It's virtual and it's free. And I'm going to be part of a panel talking about Salem's Chinese shrine archaeology project. So I encourage you to attend. It's really fun and interesting. And then last, we are getting ready to start our next public archaeology project. We're doing preliminary pedestrian survey and ground penetrating radar now. It's going to be over at the Willamette Heritage Center, and we're going to be excavating in April. So if you have an interest in participating, just let me know. And that's all I have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff? Hearing and seeing none, that's the end of our agenda, and I'll close our meeting.
With your imaginary gavel.